So that's your family right there?
Yeah. This is Rebecca Van Dunk.
How old's that photo, 19?
Oh, I'd say 1800s. There was like silence and the wind was blowing and I'm looking at my great-great-grandparents and I'm like,
I find that people that are striving to be chief probably are the ones that should not be chief. That Bergen County was the most dangerous slave county in the country. Mother called me, so the little kid says, I'm a Ramapo, I'm a Native American, and the teacher included was going, there ain't no Indians around here. The Ramapo lived there. If you go back when Ringwood Manor was established, it's a gorgeous mansion. Less than a mile away, the Ramapo lived there where they had dirt floors and no bathrooms. They built Ringwood Manor.
Is been notorious, and the names carried with the Ramapo is the term the Jackson Whites. They've been called the Jackson Whites, a name steeped in racism, born from the myths of inbreeding, criminality, and isolation. For generations, the slur has been used to degrade the Ramapo Lenape Nation, a Native American tribe hidden in the mountains of northern New Jersey. Without reservation land, without federal recognition, and living in some of the state's poorest conditions, their fight for survival has been as relentless as the prejudice they face. It's a fight made worse by how they've been portrayed in pop culture. Movies like Out of the Furnace starring Christian Bale, Woody Harrelson, Casey Affleck reduce the Ramapo to a grotesque characters, a savage, inbred group hidden in the hills. Leading this uphill battle for dignity and recognition is Chief Dwaine Perry, frustrated and jaded after years of being dismissed by government agencies and mocked in the media. Today, I sit down with Chief Perry to uncover the truth about the Ramapo and to confront the myths that have plagued them and to understand what it means to lead a people who have been so deeply misunderstood. This is their story, and it's one America needs to hear. Well, I know Chief just got here, so let's just go inside. Let's go say hi to Chief, see what's up.
yes.
Oh, here we are inside the community center.
Yes.
All right, so what do we got here? The elected Indian chiefs.
Yes.
There's Chief Dwaine.
Yes.
He's right there.
These are other chiefs that have played a major role in the Ramapo history as chiefs along our journey.
Otto Mann Jr.
Yes.
He's the only one that gets a name.
Well, yeah, this is Walt Van Dunk as well. He just drove by in the truck.
Yeah.
I can get you the names. This is Redbone, Chief Redbone.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Chief. Who is this? Who is this guy?
McClendon.
And then this is Tiger, right?
Dude, Tiger's got a good hat.
Tiger.
How old are these photos?
Oh man, I'd say early 1900s. Some of them, some even in the 1800s.
Oh my gosh! Look
Yeah.
at that. It's incredible. William DeFries.
Yeah, this is Redbone right there. He was a wood carver.
Wow, very talented.
Yeah. And as you know, I'm a Morgan, and my mother's maiden name was Van Dunk.
So that's your family right there?
Yeah. This is Rebecca Van Dunk Morgan.
And how old's that photo, 19?
Oh, I'd say 1800s.
My gosh.
Then we have William Buffalo Man.
Buffalo Man.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was in the Civil War.
And I'm just going to say that had to be close to 200 years old because when my aunt, who passed away like in 80 something, she was in her 90s, and she used to talk about, the kids called him Buffalo Bill. They went to the Hillburn School.
Oh, really?
And he used to bring cattle or something down the mountain to take them up, and then the kids would rush out.
No way.
Yeah, I've shared his.
That's where he got the name from.
Did he fight in the Civil War, Chief?
Might well that way.
Yeah, I
Might
think.
as well have, yeah.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Don't want to
I've-
mess with that guy.
Yeah, I've shared his photo with a few, and they're like, he looks like Geronimo. That's the day. Over here, let me show you this. This
Yeah.
is Split Rock. This is a Chief, I'm sure, will touch base with you on this. Is one of
Yeah.
the portals of the earth. And I don't want to give you info. He knows more.
All right.
But we had the Mamos come from South America, and they said this is one. There was so many portals. I think it was like 7 or 8. And they said this is one. So they wanted to tell us that we had this powerful place, you know.
And what do you mean portal?
I mean, like they said, a portal.
Into like the spiritual realm?
Yes, pretty much, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And this was the guy, Wild Buffalo Bill Man.
Yeah.
This is at our ancient burial grounds up up the road here on Mountain. And Walt Van Dunk actually showed me like my great-great-grandparents. And like I said, I've been here almost 2 years, and it was so spiritual. There was like silence and the wind was blowing, and I'm looking at my great-great-grandparents, and I'm like, I said, and there was silence, and Walt and I are sitting there, and I said, Walt, if they weren't here, I wouldn't be here. And he was like, that's right.
Hey guys, I don't mean to interrupt the video, however, I'm excited to announce I have started my own personal community page. So for those who are interested in finding out and learning more of my raw, uncensored behind the scenes content as well as reactions to my videos, I now have a community page here, as you can see, where you guys can all join. So feel free to check it out, and I'll see you in the video.
All right, Chief, I'm gonna step to the side and let you and Alessi.
Why don't you stand behind him so we can make faces at him?
I'll be right over here.
So how long have you been chief for?
Maybe close to 30 years.
30 years.
I think so.
And were you elected by the members of the community? Is that how it was done?
Times, yeah. I think we haven't had an election now in maybe 12 years, but there's nobody else to run.
Yeah, you become a dictator. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, that's nice, right? Donald Trump.
Easy re-election. So I was reading a little bit about your background. So you went and served at Vietnam, and then you came back, went to university around here.
Right.
And then once that all happened, then you got elected as chief? Is that the timeline I have right?
What happened was really, maybe it's a little bit of a misnomer. What happened was after when I returned, and when I got out of school, I started working with Chief Redbone, who was really a magnificent person. We had a large tribal unity area, and I worked with him with a number of other people my age. We had 2 or 3 elections, and nobody won, obviously. Nobody else won.
How did you want to be chief, though? Was that something that you always strive for?
No. I find that people that are striving to be chief probably are the ones that should not be chief. One of my initial thoughts was when I went to graduate school, I got an MSCED, which is a Master's in Economic Development. I could have got a good job in Tanzania.
Tanzania? Dang.
No doubt, paying 24 hours a day with no living expense. But I chose to stay home and work with Chief Redbone because the bottom line is, why am I going to Africa if we're experiencing the same depredation here?
So when you got in 30 years ago, how was the state of the Ramapo at that point compared to today?
Well, I think we were a lot more unified. And there was a lot more of us locally. So, and there was also a lot more social conscious in terms of racism economically and social was also rampant. And now it's still here, but it's more subliminal.
Yeah, how so?
Well, I think people ain't saying it, but if you're not being employed, or let's say up to 2 years ago, I can say that one of the local school systems were encouraging our kids to drop out of school in 7th or 8th grade.
They were encouraging?
Yeah.
How would they do that? Were they just saying, hey, you don't have a future, like stop it? Or like, what were they telling them?
Well, I think go back more than a couple of years ago, if you looked at what happened here in Morwell, they were encouraged to drop out. Everyone that lived up here, we've lost maybe 90+% of the people that lived on Stag Hill. Yeah. And how did that happen? Well, kids dropped out of school. The town was generous and gave all of the men, all the boys, good paying jobs with benefits to work for the town. And like I said, everybody up here owned 3-4 acres.
Yeah.
Then the township changed it's a long-term process. The township changed the zoning to 5 acres per house. Now, working class people are not going to pay for 3 and 4 acres if you can't do anything with it. The idea was for your kid. So when everybody liquidated their property, Morwell changed it back to 1 acre per house. Now you have a land rush with all of these people with these mega mansions.
So it sounds like there's been a very slow push getting you guys out and people coming in. Do I have that right?
Well, I think if that would be your analyst, I mean, I would say that Harriet Tubman had said at one point, and you can look it up, that Bergen County was the most dangerous slave county in the country.
Back during slavery, Civil War.
Slavery. So my whole point being, I think a lot of that insidiousness has lasted nearly up till today.
How do the youth feel about their heritage? Is there pride, or is there more
Well, I think
shame?
there's a pride, but they were diminished.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of pride, but a good example happened in Suffern School maybe 3 years ago. Mother called me. You know, you have that day in school and they go, I'm from Ireland. Everybody goes, oh, I'm from here. So the little kid says, I'm a Ramapo, I'm a Native American. And the teacher included was going, there ain't no Indians around here. Well, think about what that does to a little girl's heart or any other child's heart. That's cruel, as far as I could tell. I did go speak to actually it was quite a long time ago. I did go talk to the school superintendent about it. But the point was it should never have happened.
But why is that? Why are teachers saying that? Is it because of the lack of knowledge? Is it insidious where they're trying to do it? Or
I think it was intentional racism.
Intentional. And what makes you say that?
Well, because, if you go back 20 or say 30 years ago, the bars were segregated, barbershops were segregated, communities were segregated. So was it intentional, or they stop you and ask you where'd you get the car? What would you call it?
No, I'm more. I think from what it sounds like, I don't know. Like, I have to see what the position is. I wonder though if that person is a lack of knowledge of the fact that there's Native American groups up here, and
it could be a lack of knowledge. But the other thing is, it would have to be an extreme lack of knowledge of children. To devastate a child in the presence of anybody, regardless of what it was, to that extent, I think is a cultural abomination.
What was the outcome with that, Chief? Did they? You went to speak to the school?
I think they spoke to the teacher, but my point with that is that type of thing, the damage was already done. Mm-hmm. And like I said, that was quite a while back.
So we were kind of going back to it full circle. Was that you were saying the state of what it was then versus now? Right. So you're saying a lot of those things back then, so they were more unified back then, but now you're saying a lot of the treatment of the tribe is still very similar?
The problem now is we've lost a lot of our population. And the reason people's gone other places is because you can be who you are in Ohio or Texas or California. You couldn't be who you are here.
Are the youth in these families that are moving away, are they keeping the ancestral ties?
Yeah,
Is there still their ability to try to keep passing the culture, the faith, and all that? Or
yeah, well, that's exactly it. But what happens is, like I said, it's diminished because that's why the powwows become so important. So once a year, you will literally see 4,000 or 5,000 of us gathered together. And the idea was everybody it was like a homecoming. And now, just the last few years, Ringwood, where we've been doing it forever, has made it politically impossible to do the powwow there. So we've been sort of on a hunt for a new powwow.
So why are they making it so hard?
I have no idea. Out of nowhere, suddenly they need the money for parking, they need the money for this, they need this and that, and it just didn't make it fiscally untenable to put it there.
Yeah.
Why would they do it?
It seems like the sense I'm getting from you, it seems like there's a lot of frustration. Like it seems like the government, whatever you might call it, government, state, federal, they make it very difficult for you guys. Is that accurate?
Well, that's an understatement.
Yeah.
Also, let's think of something nicely. Have you been to Ringwood Manor?
No.
It's absolutely gorgeous. I think what they left out about less than a mile away, the Ramapo lived there. If you go back when Ringwood Manor was established, it's a gorgeous mansion, gorgeous grounds. Mm-hmm. Less than a mile away, the Ramapo lived there with they had dirt floors and no bathrooms. They built Ringwood Manor. What the country fails to understand is Ringwood, the people that lived there, they enslaved the Ramapos. That was one of the first plantations, if you want to call it that, in the country. Mm-hmm. The deal was they moved in. Let me give you let me put it in better context. We were talking about the Tahitiway split rock.
Yeah.
That's an acknowledged portal globally. Mm-hmm. It's related directly. There's 7 of them in this category that's related to the Pleiades.
So what do you mean by portal? Just stop you there. When you say portal, what exactly do you mean?
Well, apparently it's a power point where they say that people that the sacred people can return through.
Okay. So into like a spiritual, supernatural realm.
Yeah. Historically, and you can look this up, everything I'm saying you can check. Historically, the Ramapoughs were settled disputes among other tribal groups. You can't see it now, but you could go from the Tahiti Way, which is split rock, down the hill. There was a big field down there. Now it's sharp, and anyway, it was a big field. Had two long houses. The leadership would go up to the Tahiti Way, up the split rock.
Yeah.
Come to a decision. Come down. The tribal elders would explain the decision. The settlement, and people would move forward. Mm-hmm. At that same time in history, George Washington also knew, keep in mind, that even though due to the Dutch and a lot of other things going on, and the English, the Ramapo Muncie went from essentially something in the neighborhood of 70, 80,000 people. Think of Ramapo was the Sweetwater clan of the Muncies. The Muncies was the people of the mountains.
The Munskies. People of the mountains.
Muncie.
Okay.
People of the mountains. That means the Adirondacks, all upstate, people of the mountains. It did not mean this was a natural redoubt. This was the last place in the area that the people gathered, because obviously you could see they were being pushed around by the Dutch and etc. It was, like I said, it was always used as a place to settle disputes and in prayer. George Washington went up there to get permission to use the Ramapo Pass. It would made it impossible for them to win the American Revolution. We allowed them at the time to station 5,000 French troops in the Ramapo Pass and etc. because they were sharing the same ideals of equality and freedom. Mm-hmm. Without the use of the Ramapo Pass, it would literally have been impossible to win the American Revolution.
Yeah.
Now, our thanks for that has been that we have been completely cut out of that entire historical piece. And without the Ramapo ancestors, there would not have been a New York, a New Jersey, or the United States of America. The first 900 cannonballs fired in the American Revolution was made from Ramapo Lenape iron deposits.
Cannonballs made by the Ramapo.
The Europeans developed cannonballs, but the mines, we worked the mines. We built them, but it was their process.
Yeah, makes sense.
The chain across the Hudson was made from Ramapo Lenape, Ramapo Muncie iron deposits. Mm-hmm. Okay, the Capitol Dome was made from Ramapo Muncie iron deposits.
And there's a lack of recognition of all this.
Oh,
You're saying
not only
no
a
one
lack
tells
of
anything.
recognition, man. You're talking about the guy that never told us a lie, turned around, the first thing he did was try to enslave us.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to even how you interpret that, other than my thought was the people in power have done everything, and I mean the people have done everything within their purview to prevent the founding of the nation being associated with Native Americans of any sense. In 1722, I believe it was, the first Congress, not the last, but the first Congress, passed a law saying anyone that aided or abetted any people of African, because we also was a part of a resistance, said that anyone that befriended or aided Africans in any sense would lose all rights to their land. Mm-hmm. When I first heard that, I thought that's incredulous. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
But I see it and it's true. But the point being, the Ramapo have never ever been given any accreditation for the founding of America.
So getting to it, one of the things that I was talking with Vincent Al about that is been notorious in the names carried with the Ramapo is the term the Jackson Whites.
Right.
And I want to dispel whatever the notion is. Why did this occur? How did this occur? And what's the story behind it?
I can't really tell. Only thing I can start to imagine is probably is that, number one, it had to do with land. But let me also say this just about being a Native American. This is New York. This is about land and money and power.
Yeah.
Let's get real. Who is more beautiful, as a good example of just culturally, natives all over the world wear what is germane to their environment. Mm-hmm. Now, you're out west, who has got more beautiful regalia than these brothers with the bonnets and the horses, who looks more beautiful? Plus, that's who we've all learned to be, Indians.
Yeah.
Think about the three greatest war chiefs of the West going out back there with them bonnets on. That looked like the Three Stooges going through them damn bushes. Mm-hmm. you know? So that's been an ongoing problem here. The population in general was always saying, what kind of Indians are you? Where's your headdresses? All due respect, ain't nobody give a damn if you're an Indian in Montana. For what? 2 houses in New York, you could buy your own reservation? How do you think these people come up here on this mountain all of a sudden with a land rush? But the whole idea with racism is people have leveraged that racism to humiliate, to subjugate, and to take our land.
So that's the term of the Jackson White. It was brought up for that.
That's what. Well, what else would it be for? You know, and the fact is, yes, come towards the early 1900s or so, yes, people started marrying outside your tribe. You run out of people over time.
Yeah.
You know, but think about it. Should I come up with a name for people with different European origins?
Yeah.
And then let's start denying them jobs and education and employment.
Yeah, that's just overt racism when that happens.
So, I mean, that's what they've done. And when you use that type of term, you humiliate people to where they don't want to aspire. That's really
When did that term come up, Chief?
I don't know. Yeah, it had to be. I didn't really hear about it. It must have been in the early 1900s.
Because today you hear it in like pop culture, like I'm watching Sopranos and they mention the Jackson Whites in the show.
Yeah.
And you hear it in just forums when you read about it. And I'm like, wait, isn't this the Ramapo Native Americans? And I had to look into it and I was like, wait, is this accurate? Like I couldn't tell if this was myth or if there was some truth to this and they were running with it.
This is more than important, and I think it should go on whatever media outlet you may have or anybody else, and I'm not the first one to say it, other people have pointed it out. I would assume the most vicious, lethal, and dirtiest racist are academicians. Educators making believe they've done a scholarly study. A good one was Mr. Cohen.
So these people are talking about the Jackson Whites?
Well, he wrote a whole thing about Jackson Whites, but what he did was, and I was in high school then, he sat around with our elders at the time. We had a lot of, they used to do the weekends. They would get together, just like now, and just tell stories and lies and laugh. He recorded those stories as like something we thought was real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he did all this inbred stuff. All he is a racist. He got his PhD from being a racist.
Yeah.
You know? And I've gone down to his little school there, and at the time, Rutgers, they wanted to deny him. I'm wondering if we shouldn't revisit him now. But he's already been more than disproved. But there's people like that, and not just with the tribal people. Think about it. This is still about land and money. You know, it's still about money, and we're pretty well at the end of it now. It's what I call quiet genocide.
Okay, what do you mean by that, quiet genocide?
What I mean is we've been under constant social and economic restraints for the last over almost 200 years. Here's a good one. Does anybody know what the violence study is?
No.
No, but you know about Jackson Whites, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some dangerous academic crackers. The violence study was financed by the Ford people. Nobody wants to say nothing about the Ford Foundation because the Fords, I guess, in modern time, they're great people. But the fact is, it's about money, right?
Yeah.
The violence study was a study to help identify subhumans. Part of that study was the Ramapoughs. Actually, Vivian Milligan's sister was a part of that study from Ringwood.
What years is this?
This was, I'd have to look it up.
Is this what Al was mentioning about the genocide in 1910?
My great-grandmother
with eugenics?
was in the violence study, married to...
How do you say it, sorry? The
Vineland.
Vineland, New Jersey.
Vineland study.
Yeah, Vineland.
Yeah.
Well, that's a cover-up name for something horrible.
Yeah.
This is a fine land study. Jeez.
Yeah,
Fine,
like grapes.
Yeah, grape.
Oh, vine. Okay.
So the whole point being is, there again, that was done by supposed academics that wrote all of these things. And what people haven't mentioned even there was Adolf Hitler gave Mr. Ford a medal for his great work in developing the technology
for eugenics.
that he was able to take to Europe to use on the Jewish population.
Yeah.
And also they did do eugenics here in this country along with the King of England and everybody else.
Yeah, Owl was mentioning that. So one of the things I do want to get to is the current state, like the biggest, how would you call it? Like the biggest hill the Ramapo are trying to climb right now. What is the current like thing you guys are dealing with?
I think the biggest thing in my mind is we need to exhibit unity because we're being pushed around by other cultural groups that are also parading behind and been very successful.
Like whom?
Well, I don't even know who they are, but there's some groups, I don't even know exactly who they are. I just know that they propagate, I think, anger, and then the minute you say something to them, they say, oh, you're anti-Semitic.
So which groups are you mentioning that are saying this?
I'm not sure it is. I don't want to really get on film without having, but there is
You don't want to offend any groups.
I don't mind offending them, but I want to make sure I'm offending the right people.
Gotcha.
But there is a group that seems to propagate disdain, and that are also by other groups, the other spiritual groups that are in the same. They don't like other Jewish people. They don't like anybody else. They act very nasty and naughty. But if you say something, the minute you say something about the negative behavior, then you're anti-Semitic, and then everybody goes like this. I think it's time people got to reality. It ain't about nothing to do with your religion. It got to do with your behavior. If you're acting like a dirtbag, you're a dirtbag.
Yeah. So with this,
Don't be trying to hide out.
how does this relate to the current struggle of the Ramapo in the current state?
Well, I'm seeing in Hillburn, we're sort of being pushed around with, I don't want to go into details. I'd like to find out. It just looks like we're just in a lot of competition. I'll leave it that way.
Competition with other groups that you feel like they're getting more funded, getting more attention, and you guys are being pushed out?
If you got a bigger population, if you got a bigger population and more money, then I think what's happening is we're getting pushed out just by that.
Yeah.
And there's really no reason for it. And I would say that to any other group in the world, they developed all of that anti-Semitism on the Ramapos. So would that be anti-Ramapo?
Mm-hmm.
They developed the technology to hurt all of them poor people by hurting the Ramapo first.
Yeah.
And we're still suffering from it and have never been acknowledged, just like we have not been acknowledged by being set upon by the Nazis, the Fords, and all of these people in the beginning. We have not been acknowledged for helping the beginning of the country, but we have been acknowledged to be Jackson Whites. Got that down.